Um, Hello everyone, and welcome to the next episode of the Project Riga Meditation School. And today our guest speaker is Pinuccia Contino, who is Deputy to the Director for Consumers and also Head of Unit for Product Safety and Rapid Alert System, and also Ambassador of Applied Compassion from Stanford University. So hello, Pinuccia.
Hello, Gundiga. How are you?
I'm good, thank you, and very, very happy that you joined today.
Me
And
too, very happy. And let me first wish a very, very good year to you and all those who will be watching this.
okay. And then my first question to you is, could you share a bit more about your meditation and also compassionate leadership journey and how it started?
Absolutely. And I think you remember how it started because actually you were a trainee in my unit in that period. It was end of 2019. And actually, my interest in meditation had started a bit earlier during the summertime because a very dear friend of mine had started inviting me to 21-day long meditation challenges because she felt better to do it with several friends around. And so we set up a WhatsApp group and we were doing this all together. And I started really liking meditation. I had never meditated regularly in my life before. And I had always wondered what it meant to meditate. And maybe this is something that many people wonder, what is actually meditation? And thanks to those first challenges, I started realizing that it was really training the mind to focus on one thing at a time. And so, without knowing why, I began realizing that I really liked it. Then, what happened was that maybe also because of this, I was organizing a team building for my unit. And I thought, okay, we have done lots of things, we have done lots of exercises, we have applied schemes, we have done tests for teamwork, for understanding our preferences, understanding our different roles in the unit, and so on and so forth. But we have never done something about mindfulness. And this, of course, was sparked also by my first experience in meditating. And I thought, okay, let's try to do something around mindfulness. But there was a problem. We couldn't get budget for an external trainer in mindfulness because in those times, this was not really considered as something that you could do during a team building. So I continued looking for a solution to do something different, which was more in this area. And finally, I met a colleague that you remember, I'm sure, Alena, who had been trained in compassion cultivation. And so she said, look, I don't do simply mindfulness. I do something which can be more challenging. And in my opinion, this is certainly relevant to work, but I don't know if your team and yourself are interested to do this. And she explained that compassion was realizing that there is suffering in ourselves or in other people and doing something to decrease that suffering. And then she said, you know, I've done this at Stanford University. I'm still doing more studies on this. I find it really, really important. And just for those who are listening, Alena works in human resources in the European Commission. She is a psychologist by training. So she's somebody who really has a very scientific approach to all these things. And so what she was telling me was really interesting. And I decided to ask my colleagues whether they would be interested in doing something like this. And they said, yeah, absolutely. Let's see. Even those who were not very much interested in meditation were curious. You might remember some of these discussions. And so in the end, we decided to do the first a lesson during the team building proper, and the rest once a week for 2 hours, one day a week during the lunch break, so that it would not create problems for the work. And most of the unit members actually followed it quite regularly. And after this, we all went on holidays because it was November, December, and then we started the year again, and it was 2020, and it was very soon the start of COVID-19. So I say this because actually I saw the interest and usefulness of that training in a professional setting during the pandemic. Because during the pandemic, we were all suffering very, very much, all in different ways, but we had never been so united by this suffering. Generally, at work before, we didn't speak very much about suffering, pain, problems. It was not even considered something professional, right? But then the pandemic arrived and it became inevitable because it was happening to everybody, everywhere in the world at the same time. And several colleagues came to me spontaneously and told me that that training in compassion cultivation had helped them. Everybody had found different tools, thoughts, meditations. Of course, everybody's different, but they were all telling me that it was helpful. And so, to cut a long story short, by the end of 2020, I also decided to embark in the adventure of the degree to become an ambassador of applied compassion at Stanford that Alena had finished in 2020. So I could hear her experience, and I thought, okay, I need to do this because I want to bring this more to my colleagues in the work. And so that's how it all started.
Okay, thank you for sharing. Really, really interesting. And did you also encounter some resistance, maybe from colleagues when introducing meditation, and what were ways to overcome that?
The interesting thing is that nobody ever told me, I don't believe it, this is ridiculous, what are you doing? What I could see is that the resistance was unspoken. So those who are not interested, and it was especially outside the unit, because in the unit, people either were really interested or maybe they were looking at it from a very scientific viewpoint, but nobody was saying this is rubbish or this doesn't work. I don't even want to try. But outside the unit, for sure, I could see that there were skeptics, there were people who were absolutely not interested. Nobody was daring saying anything against it because everybody had gone through the pandemic. So everybody had the feeling that they had been suffering a lot. So I think that the fact that I always started with the scientific definition of compassion, as I did just a couple of minutes ago, was helping putting things in perspective and letting everybody free to decide whether they wanted to experiment a bit more, to understand a bit more, to do some meditations on compassion and self-compassion or not. But definitely, yes, I don't think that it will ever be possible that everybody be interested in this, also because we are all so different. But I do believe that compassion helps have everybody if we just want to try it.
Okay. And you have also pioneered several compassion initiatives in the European Commission and also within Women in Leadership Network. Could you share a bit more about that?
Yes, sure. So what happened since 2021 was that first I was invited to give compassion breaks once a month. And this again happened because Alena, who had been the pioneer of compassion studies in the European Commission, at some point said, okay, I cannot give compassion breaks anymore for personal reasons. would you be interested in giving this? And what is a compassion break? Compassion break simply is 1 hour online where the person who is giving the compassion break gives a little bit of explanation about compassion or elements of compassion or things that compassion can help soothe, decrease, like in the case of shame, in the case of loneliness, in the case of letting go, and so on and so forth, because there is a lot of science about all of these aspects of compassion. And after that, we lead a meditation. And after that, if there is still a wish to discuss and so on, the colleagues who have connected can very simply share their views or share their experience or ask questions and so on. So this is something that was actually invented by Alena while she was studying compassion at Stanford. She proposed it, and as it was considered to be a useful and helpful activity for the well-being and mental health of colleagues, this was, of course, accepted. And the principle was that it was completely free. I mean, people can go or not go, they just decide, they join. And of course, it's all based on voluntary work. So at the beginning, she started doing it. Then she enlisted a couple more colleagues, including me. And now there is another colleague who is doing it, and I'm continuing to do it. So we have 2 sessions every month. Moreover, these sessions are open to all European institutions, so not only the Commission, but also colleagues from the Parliament, the Council, the Court of Justice, the agencies, all the different bodies of the Europe. No problem. So I will just continue. So I started also participating as a volunteer in these other offerings, which were about meditation, about compassion, about yoga. So again, to help colleagues face all the problems that came with the pandemic and still be able to give their best at work, because all this was always done with work in mind, with the idea that this way we could improve resilience, we could improve performance, we could improve also commitment and engagement of staff. And all this was also based on what I had studied and learned during my degree at Stanford, which was extremely transformational for me, and also for my way of seeing leadership and management. And on top of this, there were also individual sessions that were organized in the framework of different initiatives, like the career days, the mental health days, or there were team building initiatives from some areas, some departments, some units, some directorates, where I was asked to come and lead meditations or sessions on compassion, self-compassion, compassionate leadership. And also what happened in 2024, beginning of 2024, was that at some point, a colleague who had been very much committed to well-being, and he was working, by the way, in the well-being team of our HR department, was leaving, was retiring. And I told him, look, why don't we organize something about compassion? Because you have been very instrumental too in developing the interest and the importance of compassion in the Commission. And he said, yeah, let's try. So we sent an invitation. It was for lunch, I think, if I remember correctly. And we launched the Compassion Network in the Commission. We were not sure this would work. We didn't know whether there would be many people, few people coming. So we were just trying, also as a way to honor his work in the Commission. And actually, several tens of people appeared and came to the meeting, and we started developing activities and other meetings and reflections about how to bring more compassion in our work, how to be more compassionate towards each other, how to ask for help when we were in a difficult situation. And little by little, the network has grown. It's still modest. We have 300 members, and they all come together a couple of times a year. We have a common Teams channel where we exchange information, we exchange invitations, and we will see what will happen. I would say, there is no fixed plan, but everything depends on the community, on the needs of the community, on the wishes of the community, and it is open to everybody.
Okay. That's very innovative. And you're also releasing a book on the 16th of January on Amazon about your personal growth and meditation journey. Could you share a bit more about the book?
With pleasure. Actually, this is also something that goes back to the time I was finishing my studies at Stanford. So that happened in November 2021. And then, beginning of 2022, I felt like the need to see more clearly what compassion was bringing to my life, to work, what I was learning from all that. And so I spoke with my mentor, Robert Cusick, who teaches compassion at Stanford. And I asked him, Robert, do you think it would be a good idea to write a book about this? And he said, look, write it, first of all, for yourself, to understand your own path, to understand what has brought you to compassion and what compassion has brought to you. And then you will see if it's interesting for others, if you want to publish. But first of all, even if you start this even only for you, that will be already something. And so I followed his suggestion. I started writing, I think it was August 2022. And of course, I could only write in the evenings and during holidays or weekends because I have quite a full day. I have quite a busy job. And this made the path, I think, even more interesting because actually I was growing along with what I was writing. And I really finalized the book around September 2025. And along this path, I was asking suggestions and help from many, many friends and colleagues. I decided to write it in English, which is my third language. And so I needed also the help of English-speaking friends, and I really could count on the help of many, many people. So even I would say that the process to create this book has been definitely not solitary. It hasn't been a lonely path. It has been a very compassionate and I would say wise path, at least a path towards wisdom in a sense that has included many, many people, not only in the stories that I tell in the book, but also in the way it has come to be born. The title of the book that took me a long time to find is What It Takes to Be Yourself. Because for me, it's really a bit the mirror of how I've changed along the decades to become more and more who I really am, and to understand that very often there are ideas about success, ideas about what we should be, how we should show up in the world, what kind of work or path would be ideal for us that don't come from our heart, but come from outside. And so it's this path towards authenticity that in my case was definitely facilitated and catalyzed by compassion, because the subtitle is From Seeking Success to I need to read it to be absolutely certain that I don't make a mistake, because it's a bit long, so sorry for this. Yes, so the subtitle is From Seeking Success to Embodying Purpose Through Compassion. And it's really all in these two title and subtitle. And my wish is that it may help other people, because I didn't write it only as a memoir. It is partly a memoir, but it is also a self-help book, because at the end of every chapter, I summarized the questions that inspired my own growing path, and that I offer as self-inquiry questions for readers to do this if they want, to meditate, to journal about this, to reflect. And if they are not interested, of course, they don't need to do it. But I really hope that the self-inquiry questions and some tools that I developed in the last years and that I share in the book can help other people who are also wondering what it means to be themselves, what is success for them, what can really give purpose and meaning to their life, and what the role compassion can have in all this, because there is no life without suffering.
That's very true. And how has meditation personally supported you during moments of stress or pressure also? Yes.
So meditation, first of all, has become a sort of regular activity in my life. So what I generally do is meditate a bit, so between 5 and 15 minutes most of the time in the morning before I get up, and same thing at the end of the day. So I really try to respect these two moments, because they help me at the beginning of the day to set my intentions, focus on something very specific that I feel I need that day. And at the end of the day, they help me giving thanks for whatever positive has happened during the day, and also to maybe reflect and learn something from whatever happened that day. It doesn't happen every day like this, but as a minimum, I try to meditate at least once a day. And I must say I'm quite happy, because my last series is already 164 days without interruption. So it's not easy, and nobody should feel bad if they don't manage, because every life can be challenging and it's difficult to keep the schedule. But I'm happy, because it gives me really the pace and the cultivation of this capacity to focus and to calm our nervous system, which is I would say, the science that founds meditation. I don't do only this. I also try to journal regularly. I don't manage every day, but at least 2, 3 times a week. I continue to study about compassion, and I create new meditations for my colleagues based on what I learn about compassion and how compassion can help them in their daily lives. And I would say probably the biggest change that I can witness for myself is that I become much calmer and more able to be present, and more able to regulate myself emotionally, which means actually that also my window of tolerance has increased. Window of tolerance is the psychological concept that describes what is the area in which our nervous system keeps feeling more or less okay, whatever happens. And of course, there is a limit upward and a limit downward. The limit upward is such that when we go further than that, in terms of nervous system activation, we become angry, we become very restless, we are not calm anymore. And when we go under the lower limit, actually we go in what is called hyperarousal, which means that actually we retreat, we withdraw, we freeze. And so, of course, none of these two, hyperarousal or hypoarousal, are ideal to face whatever happens in life in the most skillful way, and staying in our window of tolerance is the best. And if we manage to increase this window of tolerance, our life becomes easier, and we also become wiser in the way we show up in the world. So just to explain a bit also the science behind all this. So definitely, I'm always a work in progress, like everybody else. But definitely, I can see that I have certainly improved compared to some years ago.
Okay. And also, from your observation, how meditation helps people connect with meaning in their professional lives?
I think that the great gift of meditation is realizing that we can choose. We can choose on what to put our attention. We can choose on what to concentrate. And we can let go of things, of emotions, of negative feelings, difficult memories, and so on and so forth. And of course, I'm talking here about normal situations. I'm not talking about extreme traumatic situations or health conditions, of course, because there what we need is medical help, is professional support, and so on and so forth. But let's say in a normal life, when we are in a normal situation, at work, in the family, wherever we are, the cultivation, the practice of meditation, and I would say in my case in particular of compassionate meditation, because that helps you deal with suffering that unfortunately is very often present in our days. That really helps to see that we have some power of influence, and this concerns what we can change. We also can recognize the things that we cannot change, and we can accept that. And when we manage to get there, also thanks to meditation, because we have been focusing our attention on several aspects of life and seeing what happens inside us when we do this, then our life, in a sense, become easier, because we are not more inclined like before to fight every difficulty, to fight everything that goes wrong. Not because fighting is not good in itself, but because before fighting, what is needed is to see what's happening. And this is what meditation helps us to do. And mindfulness, being present without judgment, like a mirror that only reflects what's happening. And after that, we can have the time to say, okay, in this case, I will fight. In this case, I will react like this. In that case, I will respond like that. So we become more able to express our power of agency on the aspects of life and on the things where we do have some power of influence or of action. And that's where our freedom expresses itself, that's also where we can see the limits of what we can do and accept them, because we cannot feel responsible for things that we cannot change. It doesn't depend on us. And for me, getting to understand this and to feel it, really to feel it, it's not just cognitive. With meditation, we learn to feel things through our body, which is so key, because then we are able to be unified, body and mind. And we are also able to see our emotions before judging them, before trying to fight them or chase them. Because in the end, emotions are just ambassadors, they're just giving us some messages. What is important is that we understand the messages so that we can respond in the most skillful way. Doing all this has really made my life more joyful too, because I can see joy in very little things that I was neglecting before because I was too much focused on negative things, for example. And by the way, this is something we all do because we have a negativity bias that has helped our species continue to exist and thrive, actually. So I've also learned, thanks to the science behind meditation, compassion, mindfulness, and so on, that all has happened for a reason, and that we can understand this, we can connect with our bodies through meditation and be able to be more present in the world the way we are, with our purpose, because we are all unique and we all have a unique purpose. And this way, whatever we do brings more meaning, helps more the others, because we are all interconnected, and can possibly change the world for the better, even at very little scale, wherever we are.
Well, a very last question is, what invitation would you offer to someone who feels curious about compassionate meditation but is unsure where to begin?
Mm. Thank you very much. Really very nice question. I always like also to give little suggestions, little offers that then people can choose among and can experience themselves, because nothing is as convincing as what we live ourselves. So, what I would say, in particular for compassion and meditation, I would address people towards the website of Dr. Christine Neff. Dr. Christine Neff is very much recognized as one of the most knowledgeable scholars in the world about self-compassion. And she has studied self-compassion for decades. She has made lots of research, which is fascinating and has enabled people to understand much better what self-compassion is and why we need self-compassion. So self-compassion is compassion towards ourselves. And for many people, it's the most difficult kind of compassion, because we always think about helping the others before thinking of us. And this is not being selfish, but it's really important to be able to be kind to ourselves and then be even kinder to the others, so that we have some resources ourselves. And for me, starting testing self-compassion is really important, because it's very transformative. When we start learning, becoming more self-compassionate towards ourselves, actually our capacity to become compassionate towards the others increase. And this is also shown by lots of researchers. So I would say that would be my first suggestion, to try and test for yourself a little bit of self-compassion through this website where Dr. Neff puts lots of research and resources at the disposal of everybody, including lots of meditations, guided meditations. And a second thing that I would suggest is to go on YouTube and listen to some podcasts by Dr. Rick Hanson. Dr. Rick Hanson shares a lot of his studies and research about the importance of letting go of the bad and focusing more on the positive. Because actually he is a specialist of neuroplasticity, and he explains very well the fact that when we change our behavior, because we decide to do so and we do it little by little, like for example, when we decide to focus more on gratitude, actually we change the neuronal pathways in our brains and we become much more able to enjoy life, to feel positive emotions, and therefore also to be better towards ourselves and the others. So I would give these two suggestions.
Okay. Thank you so much. It was very, very inspiring to hear, and I learned a lot. And I will also check out the resources and also your book. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. Good. It was really a pleasure to be here with you and to see your smile and the beautiful northern lights behind you. It's really, really inspiring and I think makes everybody think about the beauty also that there is in all that is good.
Thank you.